Hi guys, welcome to today's Get Ready With Me video where I use products that I already have in my collection. I have done my skincare for the morning. It is quite early here on a Tuesday morning here in New Zealand, and the last step being my sunscreen, which I've already put on probably about an hour and a half ago, and then I just put another little layer on about 10 or 15 minutes ago, mainly underneath my eyes so that I'm really nice and moisturized. So for my primer today, I'm going to use the Tom Ford. This is the Traceless Soft Matte Primer, and I just take one pump. Sometimes I use more than one pump. The other thing that I haven't really mentioned in my videos before is that I put primer, except for under my eyes, but I put it all over my face because I'm oily all over my face. But if I had combination skin, then something like this primer here, I would probably, because people that have combination, it tends to be just oily through the T-zone. So I'd probably just put the primer through here and not worry about the rest of my face. But I am oily all the way over. My cheeks don't tend to dry out or anything like that. Everything is oily. So I'm just going to let this sit for a minute and then I'll put on the foundation. And for the foundation today, I'm going to use the Chantecaille. This is the Future Skin Cushion. I have this in the shade Nude. And the other day when I went to use this, I had run out. It comes with a spare refill, so this is the spare refill that came with it, and I popped that in the other day. It also comes with this sponge as well, but I don't use the sponges. I tend to use a beauty blender, so I've got a dampened one in front of me, and I use this for all my cushion foundations. So I just take a bit on the sponge. I really like this foundation. With my oily skin, it's probably more suited to the weather when it gets a little bit cooler. I can wear it in summer as well. It does wear quite well, but it tends to stay less chances of any oils breaking through. So it's autumn here now in New Zealand, so the weather it's a little bit cooler. It still gets really warm during the day, but the humidity level is nowhere near like it was that we get in a couple of weeks, where we do get quite high humidity where I live. I mean, there's always going to be some humidity. We don't live in an arid climate, but it's a lot less than what it was. And when I wore this the other day, it just stayed on really beautifully throughout the day. So I think that this foundation gives a beautiful finish to my skin. It's sort of a light medium finish. I think it's very natural looking, just evens everything out, and I think it's super flattering for mature skin. It is a really lovely foundation. Now for concealer today, I'm going to use the Dior Forever, the Skin Correct one. This is the new formulation, which I really love. So I'm just going to put 2 or 3 dots in a corner. If I need to add a little bit more, I will. This is a concealer where I find that I can add a little bit more without it looking cakey. But often, most of the time, I tend to put too much on. And I think this is going to be enough. This is the BK Beauty Angie Hot and Flashy brush. This is the A506. And I think this is a really good brush for initially putting on the concealer. I think it blends out concealer really, really lovely. But of course, like I do in all my other videos, the final step is I do use my finger and just press the concealer in. I just find that it helps meld it all in, and I can see straight away as soon as I've pressed it in with my finger, it just becomes, the concealer looks good after the brush, but once I've pressed in with my finger, it just looks really, really flawless. So for my eyebrows, I'm going to use the Chanel, this is the Stilo, I think it's called a Defining Longwear Eyebrow Pencil. And this is in the shade Brun Clear. This is the one that I've been using for a long, long time. I also have the newer shade that's come out with the collection with the Delise collection and also that really beautiful blush as well. There were 3 eyebrow pencils. This is in the one Brun Rouge. I thought it might be too dark, and I've used that in 2 or 3 of my other videos, but I find the colour just fine. I just worry sometimes if an eyebrow pencil is too dark, that can look a little bit harsh. So between the two, I don't really have a preference between the shades. Both work fine. And because I have this one open and this one as well, I just swap around each day, and one day I might wear this one, the next day the Bronze Clear. The birds outside today, I can hear them. I've got the windows open as well. It's sort of cooler this morning, but I quite like it, especially when I've got these lights in front of me. I've got 2 soft boxes in front of me as well, and that can bring the temperature up in the room. So I'm letting the cool air in, but considering it's autumn, the birds are really noisy, probably because it's a lovely sunny day. I'm not too sure what's up with the birds today. I'm going to use the Anastasia Beverly Hills. This is the eyebrow gel. I think that's what it's called, the eyebrow gel. It's the clear brow gel. And I've mentioned before that, as well as this one, I also use the Benefit one as well. I like both of them. I've got the Benefit one in my drawer, a backup, but I just wanted to open this one because I'd had this as a backup for quite a while. But once I've finished this one, then I'll swap back to the Benefit one. And then for eyeshadow primer, I'm going to use the MAC Paint Pot. And then going to set under my eyes. This is the Westman Atelier. This is the Vital Pressed Skincare Powder. I can hear those birds. They're really loud. Often I sort of don't register that they're there because I get used to the noise and they are more in the background, but they must be quite close and there must be quite a few of them out there. Anyway, they seem really noisy to me. For powder for my face, I'm going to use the Chanel Natural Finish Loose Powder. And I'm just going to take a small amount. This is my Mer powder brush. And I'm just going to put on just a small amount just to set this foundation. Because it gets warmer during the day. The other day I used the Sisley powder, which I really love. But I found that my face got a little bit shiny throughout the day. So I think the Chanel Natural Finish Loose Powder will probably work a bit better. Once it gets a lot colder here and in winter time, then I tend to use a lot more powders. The La Prairie, the Skin Caviar powder and the Sisley one. But when the weather is warmer during the day and I want a bit of longevity out of my foundation, this is the powder that I tend to reach for. And I've been mentioning it in some of my videos, and because I use it so much, I am definitely getting through this, and I imagine I'm going to have to buy another one later in the year. And today I'm going to use the Gucci bronzer. This is in the shade 03. And I'm just going to put on just a small amount. I don't pick up too much with this brush. I can always add a little bit more. And for eyeshadow today, I wore this the other day, and I think this is a beautiful palette. This is the Beiges, and this is in the shade Intense. I also have the other one as well. I think that one's called Tender. I'm just taking the 2 little brushes out, and such a beautiful palette. And this shade down here, and I'm going to do it how I wore it the other day, but when I put this shade on, I think this was the one, yes, I started with this shade, and that's what I'm going to do in a minute, but once I put it on, I really thought it was enough. I think it's a really beautiful shade if you just want one and done. I think it's really, really lovely. You can put the shade on, pop on a little bit of eyeliner, mascara, and set to go. So I'm going to take the Sonia G. This is the Classic Crease, and go into this shade. And I'm just going to take this all over my lid, through the crease, and above as well. So the Sonia G, the Classic Crease, this is quite a fluffy brush. And when I used this shade the other day, I thought the pigment of this is really, really good. But the shade by itself, I think, is really beautiful. By the time, like I said, if you just put on a little bit of eyeliner, I take this shade underneath the eye as well, a little bit, add a little bit of eyeliner, some mascara. I think it would be really beautiful. I'm just going to add a little bit more to the side. I'm going to take the Sonia G, this is a soft definer. I'm going to stay with the shade and I am going to run this under my lower lash line. I will add a darker shade as well. Then we'll take the Rèphr number 14 and into this shade here. And this is the shade put on the outer corner and through the crease, and I just take that just slightly above as well. So I have a lot of eyeshadow palettes in my collection, and that's the only reason that I hadn't reached for this for a while. But the other day when I wore it, I had forgotten how beautifully this blends. I think they blend really, really beautifully. I'm going to take the Rèphr number 3. I'm going to stay with that shade, and I'm going to add this to my lower lash line as well. Then I'm going to go into this top shade here and just lighten everything up through here. Then we'll take the sponge applicator that comes with this palette. I'm going to stay with the shade, and I'm just going to put a little bit on my lower lash line through here and also in the inner corner. Then we'll take the Sonia G, the pencil one, and go into the shade here and just add just a little bit more depth in here. I'm just keeping it to the very outer corner. I'll just pop a little bit more on the side. Now just wipe down the soft definer, and this is really good, this brush, because I use it a lot for my lower lash line underneath there, but also when I do this because it's fluffy and when I want to blend out a shadow, but I can just keep it to a certain area. And then back with the pencil one, and I'm going to put a little bit of this just out here on the lower lash line as well. And then again, I've just wiped down this brush and I'll just go over just to buff it out a little bit. And then instead of eyeliner, I'm just going to take this Chantecaille brush and go into the shade here, and I'm going to use this to give some definition. And for mascara today, I'm going to use the Victoria Beckham. This is the Future Lash Mascara. I really love the brush on this because it's quite small and I can get in very easily to the root of the lash and also to the very outer lashes really easily as well. And then finally, I just grab, this is clean, and this is very soft, fluffy brush, and I just go over just to smooth and buff out all the edges. And for blush today, I'm going to use, this was released just a little while ago, the Charlotte Tilbury, the Pillow Talk, the Matte Beauty Blush Wand, and this one is in Peach Pop. So you just twist it there. I find these quite pigmented, so I'm just going to start off with just a couple of dots, and the brush that I normally use for this, I'll just grab it. It's the Sonia G one. It is the Classic Base. And then I'll just do a couple of dots on the other side as well. I can always add a little bit more, but I think it was last week I was using it, and I put 3 dots on. I thought that was a little bit too much. So I just think by popping just 2 dots on and blending out, I think that gives just a beautiful flush of colour. I really like these. They don't dry down, even though they say they're matte. I mean, they dry down, but they don't really dry down. So you've got this flat matte, so it starts emphasising texture or wrinkles around here, but they last really well. I think these are really, really lovely. And for my highlighter today, I'm going to go back into the Chanel Quad that I used for the eyeshadow, and I'm just going to go into this top shade here. This is a Rèphr brush. It's the number 16, and I'm just going to pick up just a small amount, and I think that is really, goes really, really beautifully. Then I'm just going to take this on G. This is the smooth buffer, and just buff that out just slightly. I sort of like a highlighter, instead of just having a stripe, I like it more when they are buffed out, and this is a great brush for doing that. And for lipstick, I'm going to use the Chanel, this is the Rouge Coco Baume, and this is in the shade 916, and this is in Flirty Coral. I use this shade a lot. I really like the Chanel Balms. Often I don't wear a lot of really pigmented lipsticks during the day, especially when I'm using colours like this, like reds or corals. If I do, it's just not that often. But when I want to use a coral instead of a really bright pigmented lipstick, I do prefer using balms. You still get the colour, but you just get that lighter look, and I think it looks really, really pretty. So I think that the finished look is really, really lovely. I wore this the other day, as I was saying, and I really like the Chantecaille The Future Skin Cushion. I think it gives a very natural look to your skin. I think this is really flattering on my mature skin. I think it's really, really lovely. The Chanel Beiges Intense eyeshadow. What a beautiful colour story. I also love the one in Tender as well, but this is just really, really gorgeous. And as I was saying earlier in the video, I'd forgotten how beautiful they were to blend. And I think that the top shade in this also worked really lovely as a highlighter as well. The Charlotte Tilbury, the matte blush wand, really lovely. I love how they perform. I think they blend out beautifully. You can certainly add more colour if you want to. As I said earlier, I was putting on 3 dots, and I thought that was just a little bit too much for me. So with just 2 dots, I think you get this really beautiful wash of colour, and I really love how they last. Really, really lovely blushes. And the Chanel, the Rouge Coco Baume, this is beautiful. This is what I was talking about. So I have the coral, but it's not too bright, too much. For me, this being an everyday look, whereas later in the day I am going to go out, and I think this is just lovely for everyday makeup. So that's it for today's video. I'd love it if you gave it a like and subscribed, and I will see you next time. Bye.